Everybody, I'm sorry to interrupt you while you're eating. I just want to get us started so that we don't run over as best we can. So let's do a quick rise. You can That's what. 5, 9, and 2, 1. For all. Jim was here. There he is, Jim.
Blessed, please join in prayer or meditation as I say, blessed is you to our youth and us to thy service. Amen.
Amen.
And Chip is tied up at the dentist, and so he asked me to pick a song. I'm going to pick one we don't need books for. It's America the Beautiful. So, if everyone will please join. Oh, space, forever waves of grace, for majesty. See. All right.
It's okay. I don't want to disrupt the fellowship. It's so nice to hear. So overrated. Anyway, we have a great program today, but I do have a few announcements before we turn it over to Jeff Holland to hear about the bridge tunnel. Couple of our announcements. One, thank you, Mark, last week for covering for me since I had to be absent from the meeting. And anytime you feel a desire to stand up and do it again, have at it. Couple of things, just a reminder, we will be dedicating our Rotary clock in the town of Cape Charles at Strawberry Plaza on April 26th. It is a Saturday. That is confirmed. Lock it down. We are in.
Well,
Around 12-ish. It is part of the love run. Am I saying that right, Joe?
really not part of the love run. Follows the love run.
Follows the love run. So yes, there's activities that morning in Cape Charles. Then there'll be a dedication over in Strawberry Plaza, not just of the clock, but all the other improvements that have been made in Strawberry Plaza. So again, I will make sure we do another couple of reminders to you. I hope we show out in mass. I'm also going to let the other two clubs on the shore know about this, and hopefully they can have a presence there as well. While it's going to recognize the Cape Charles Club on this clock, we really want it to symbolize Rotary as a whole. A couple other things to put on your calendar. There is an upcoming district assembly. So District 7600 is actually hosting their leadership assembly on April 12th, which is in 2 Saturdays over at Virginia Wesleyan. So you should have been receiving, especially the board members, you should have been receiving a couple of emails coming out from the district on this. I'm going to try and shoot another one later this evening out to you to hopefully get you to register to attend. I am planning on going to the district assembly. Love to have a few more club members and board members in attendance as well.
I'm laughing at the food. I'm eating this. He's got a dog. He's got a doggy bag.
Couple other more. So put it on your calendar of a save the date. We have the Norfolk Tides baseball game to benefit Rotary is going to happen on May 14th. So I think that is a if I did my math right. Wednesday, I believe. Sorry. Norfolk Tides baseball game, May 14th. So again, we'll get some reminders out on that. The Chamber Fest is hosting their concert in the town of Cape Charles over by the Shanty area again, over by the railroad property on May 17th. That's the same Saturday that we are doing our Art in the Park during the day of Saturday, and then we follow over on Sunday as well. I am announcing this to you because from the Exmoor Rotary Club, they have agreed to do a tailgate sponsorship, and they want to host a table there during the Chamber Fest event to promote Discover Rotary. And so they are hoping to get participation from all three clubs to do like an hour or two each at the table that day at the Chamber Fest from 3 to 8 p.m. So again, we're going to be looking for some interest. Hopefully you guys will think about it. I'm going to ask at the end of today's meeting if there's an interest, because I need to get back to Exmoor to let them know if we're in on this event as well, to be part of Discover Rotary. May 17th, it's a Saturday. And again, we're going to need to lean upon you guys to also help Joan with the Art in the Park. Primarily for Art in the Park, it's to do security in the evening hours of Saturday into Sunday, as the vendor stuff will stay there overnight in the Art in the Park. We also are going to need some help from everyone in advance of that to promote the event. And so I've been talking to Joan about those issues as well. So we'll get a little more info back to you in the next week or so. And my last one is just a reminder. Bill is taking the lead to be the president in my stead to do the fireside chat. I think Paul is going to help you as well, correct?
Yes, Paul's going to do it.
So then Paul, even better. So after today's meeting, if you have not had the president's fireside chat, please stick around for about 35 minutes or so to get that whole fireside chat done. And that'll check the final box as a new member if you haven't had it done yet. Those are my announcements. Any other club announcements anybody wants to throw into the mix that I have forgotten? Bill.
Reminder, next Tuesday, Giving Tuesday. I don't want to be a broken record, but it's your opportunity to get additional points for Paul Harris Bello between $100 and $500. That would be on my Rotary. Be on my Rotary, and have to go to the annual fund. Okay.
Betty.
We had a brief abbreviated satellite committee meeting this day. And so just to announce that the chair of this committee is now Jason Reston.
Yeah. So I assume with that, you guys are circling closer to trying to figure out when we should host our first event. Is that what's coming?
Still aiming for mid-July because one facility, we're kind of narrowing it down to 2 or 3 top facilities. And one facility won't be open until mid or late April.
Okay.
But they're very supportive of Rotary. And so, and the name to be announced later.
Okay.
Because we haven't made it yet.
Well,
And so.
I remind all the club members, if you recall, when we first talked about this, I also made a commitment that each of you will provide to me 3 potential candidates, 3 names. And so far, I've only heard from one Rotarian who's locked up some names. So I'm going to come after you. And if you won't give me names, I'm going to hit you in the pocketbook somehow. I'll find you like $1,000.
Yeah.
Really want some names. So that really is getting out into your community, look around, see who's your neighbors, who the businesses you frequent. Maybe there are some potential candidates within that pool. So again, I'm going to keep pushing all of you to keep giving me 3 names minimum that we can invite to this new club that we're trying to form, this satellite club that won't have as great of a commitment to participate as we do in the main club. Or potentially they might want to be part of our main club and we can include them over here. I think we're about to have another member come in to this club. He's a new resident coming into the Bay Creek area. He's reached out to Paul and myself, and I think he's going to be joining us in the next month or so, if I'm correct, if I'm remembering correctly. So we want to continue to promote who we are at Rotary, and whether it's our club or maybe the Exmoor club is more suitable, or even Onancock, because Exmoor has a dinner meeting, Onancock does a breakfast meeting, we do a lunch meeting. Who knows what might fit in somebody's calendar, or a satellite club where it's a lesser commitment, maybe the greater focus on service is the route to go. So thank you, Betty, for the update. I'm really excited for that. Any other club announcements? Hearing none, let's do some happy dollars. Who is happy today? If anybody is happy today and want to give me some money. Bill.
I'm happy for the tune of $8.30. I'll explain why. On Thursday, I will be 83,
Whoa.
and Jackie would never allow me to pay $83. It's $8.30.
Okay, thanks, Glenn.
Well, if John Burris were here, he would shame you by making up the difference.
So are you gonna cough in the extra $1.80 and get $10? Anybody else who have some happy dollars? Mal?
Well, my first happy dollar contribution, I guess, it will be for $10. $5 because I was in Florida for 2 weeks, and $5 because I'm back.
Anyone else? Moving on then. Have you, I want to make sure everybody had a chance to get your Queen of Hearts cards today for our drawing. If there are any other sales, yes, no? But I'm going to go ahead and ask you to tell me who's got the high card of the Queen of Hearts.
Oh, my God, right here.
Any aces? No aces? No kings?
All right, how about a pair?
I got a queen, a king of hearts over here. I think it's Chuck over here. He is our winner today. Here we go. While Paul is counting out the bank today from our Queen of Hearts game, let's go ahead and have you draw. Let's see if you pick the Queen of Hearts.
I got to freeze and be done. No.
No Queen of Hearts, so Chuck did not win the big pot today.
Okay. Just win $7 from today's pot.
Okay, excellent. So we live another day to play. With that said, I am so pleased to announce Jeff Holland is our speaker to talk about all things Chesapeake Bay versus Tunnel. So he is a talker, so tell me when you want me to shut him up, and we'll get him off the stage. But otherwise, Jeff, the floor is yours.
So the opportunity, it's your presentation, stop if you have things you want me to discuss, even if it's not on the screen at the time. Taking up somebody else's as well. So appreciate your time today. We'll hop right in. Those that remember crossing the ferries, raise your hand.
Husband does.
Ralph is the only one that remembers crossing the ferry here. We've got a young group.
My husband does. My husband does. He talks about it all the time.
I did.
Greatest memories.
Always look forward to the food on the ferry. Snack.
Watching you build the bridge.
And you do know that was our club's history. We used to meet on the ferry for lunch.
I did not know that.
In the 1919 time period.
Probably on the Pocahontas.
On the Maryland, well, probably several, but we have a photograph on the Maryland.
No kid. If you would send that to me, that'd be great. I'd love to see that in the archive. That's the first I've heard of it. So 2-hour crossing time on a day like today, minimal winds, on average wait times were an hour and a half. Tumultuous days weather-wise, crossings would be 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Weekends, folks said average wait time 3 to 4 hours. You get on a ferry. Holidays for folks, when they would go southbound, they live on the shore, they figured it'd take them a day. Approximately 8 to 12 hours to get on a ferry, 2 hours to cross, and then correspondingly, they came back on a holiday weekend, same thing. So thankfully, the visionaries approached the General Assembly in the 50s early on and said, hey, we have a need for a fixed crossing to complete the coastal corridor. 95 had not been completed at the time. And we want the authority to be able to do so. Little surprise happened. Lucius Kellum Jr. and the visionaries that worked tirelessly in a volunteer capacity, sideline the businesses for the purposes of being able to accentuate getting the fixed crossing from a vision to a reality. Got the green light from the General Assembly, but they said, hey, you're not going to get a cent to build it. And the group said, wait a second, this needs to become part of the state's Department of Highways. And the General Assembly at the time, rightfully and thankfully said, no, we don't want to take the risk. We want to transfer the risk to a political subdivision. Reason being, given its length, given the tumultuous location, we do not want any kind of negative operational experiences or large-scale incidents, accidents to come back on the bond rating of China. Why do I say thankfully? In 1970, we went into default. So we had 3 series of bonds. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, he's,
Three series of bonds, and on the Series C bonds, we went into default. We were in default from 70 to 86. Okay. We approached everybody to assist. Nobody wanted to touch us, just as it was back when we were built. And so we cured the default after 16 years. Anybody here hold any of those Series C bonds? Okay, those Series C bonds you'll find had all the attached coupons from 70 to 76. People were trading as low as 42 cents on the dollar to get rid of them. So folks who took the risk, where there's risk, there's return, to purchase some of those bonds, once we made good by 86, it was like a 440% tax-free return, both federal and state. But at the time, it was still questionable whether we were going to be able to bounce out of the default. So the risk transfer worked. Correspondingly, the authority was given the opportunity to raise the funds by issuing 200 million in revenue bonds. Those 200 million in revenue bonds were used for the purpose of being able to pay for $137 million in construction costs, right? You don't listen to anything else I say today. The escalation cost of projects are going to continue to be a problem for our country, all right? Case in point is the CDBG. We built the full facility, okay, tunnels included, $137 million in 6. All right, you fast forward to the parallel crossing, which occurred from 95 to 2000. That total cost without tunnels turns out to increase to 260 million. Then you fast forward to one tunnel, okay, just one tunnel, 2, potentially 4 girders to be replaced. On the approaches, that one tunnel project is $800 million. Okay. So 42 months on the original construction timeline for everything. You fast forward to the late 90s for the parallel crossing. The total length to construct everything was approximately, including environmental, 26 months, plus an additional 30 months for environmental review. So you're talking almost 80 months. And then you fast forward to today, this project for us to get the environmental approval started in 2014, project will be done in 2028. Okay. So substantial escalation in project cost delivery. No greater place in terms of an example of that is CBBT. Original tunnels, where were they built? Okay. Built in Texas, rode around the Keys up the coast. Can you imagine waking up on your in your condo in Galveston, Texas, and there being a 310-foot tunnel section on your beach? That's what happened. Major storm when the tunnel sections being towed there from Orange around the into the Gulf. The tunnel tow broke, and tunnel section ended up on the beach. They had to wait for flood water to pull it off the beach. Reconditioned in Norfolk, able to be used for the Thimble Tunnel that you drive through today. Tunnel clearances, 13 feet, 6 inches. We'll get back to that in a bit. This is a picture of Lucius Kellum Jr. Does not get the credit he deserves. While the facility is named in his memory, at the time it was his honor in 1987. This guy persevered through negativity. He would come to groups such as this in the 50s, and he relates to me. 70% of the people will be fully skeptical. You know, they want to ask him, Lucius, what are you thinking? You've been an amazing businessman. How in the world would you ever lead a charge to have a fixed crossing across a tumultuous, essentially ocean as we have here at the mouth of the bay? So kudos to Lucius and his team. Case in point, each of these islands, 10 acres in size at the base of the bay, 5 acres at the surface, 30 feet above sea level. Thankfully built with a high factor of safety. Reason being, given our location again, most islands, most trestles for bridges and tunnels in the US are built at 17 feet above sea level. We prefer to have that extra factor of safety and not need it than need it and not have it. There's the commemoration of Lucius when the facility was named. We talked quickly about phase 1 of the parallel crossing. The General Assembly unanimously approved. Unfortunately, we had experienced 75 fatalities from our opening until the approximate early 90s. Major maintenance delays. On average, folks could experience 1,500 to 2,000 hours of lane closures with just having a 2-lane contraflow roadway. So we got the approval to build the parallel crossing. Why did we not build the tunnels at the time? Didn't have the cash, right? We're not subsidized by any entity. We're completely self-sufficient. We have tax exemption powers, but we operate as a business, right? So correspondingly, champagne tastes on a beer budget. We wanted to build the whole enchilada, but we didn't have the capital to be able to do so. So we broke it down to build everything but the tunnels, which were built from 95 through 99. And then correspondingly, the parallel tunnels would be phase 2. As I mentioned, 46 months to construct. I mentioned 30 months for environmental review. It's actually 36 months for the environmental review, for the environmental impact statement. And you can see the technologies that were prevalent. This jack-up barge, IB 909, all the piles were driven with a pile dynamic analyzer. Piles are the supports, the precast sections for all the original facility built at Bayshore. The parallel, a third built at Bayshore and 2/3 built at Little Creek at a self-performed precasting plant. All of that with pile dynamic analyzer on the parallel crossing. The original crossing piles were driven to resistance. So that means that each location, you drive a pile, for that pile will move no more than an inch per 100 strikes. So technology is much more prevalent in the 90s and the 60s, still took much longer to build. Kudos to that original construction. They did a super job. All of you live here, you know the stories in terms of the lane closures for ordinary maintenance work. I'm surprised that Katie didn't, introduce me as Damn Jeff Island. When you're sitting in that tunnel traffic at night, when we're in there maintaining the tunnels, that's 1,100 hours on average per year. Why do we do that? Most facilities get the new construction built, slows down the existing. We don't want to defer that maintenance, because the longer you defer that maintenance in this oxidizing environment, the greater the cost, the greater the risk is relates to being able to do that massive capital improvement project. Other things that you'd be interested in, given where we live, oversized escort loads. We have about 500 oversized escort loads per year now. A large part of that is what is transported to be able to supply walls with not just what's necessary for NASA, but for your spaceport, Virginia Space, Rocket Labs, the key tenant there. They're our number one customer as relates to the escort loads that are required to get back and forth to Wallops. We'll talk about tunnel depth in a little bit. Latest fiscal year that's been audited, fiscal year 24 on our June 30 fiscal year. You can see where our revenues are derived, lease revenues, tolls, and investment income. No subsidies from the federal government, state or localities for facilities, operations, and maintenance, okay? Things that you'd find interesting. I was speaking earlier with Ms. Davis about one of our collection staff. They're our most valuable players. They're the ones that are having to deal with customers during the approximate 50 times a year. They have weather restrictions. They have to receive a lot of vulgar language, as you can imagine. But importantly, they're a gateway in making sure that we provide the customer service that's necessary. We have a collector that's working here in lane 4. Underneath, it's hard to see, and I apologize on this focus. Maybe it's just my eyes. Tell me if it's. I think that's about as good as I can get. I apologize. Lane 4, that's Chesapeake Bigger's tunnel. Collectors work in lane 4, no joke. Have customers come up and say, I want to take the tunnel only because I'm scared of bridges. That's, and I know we get charged.
Yeah.
So that prompts our collectors to say, ma'am, sir, pull aside. I have one of our utility players, our emergency crew workers who will drive that carload across if they have anybody else that's comfortable driving. Guess how often that happens? Take a guess.
Once a week.
Any other guesses?
5 times a day.
100 times a month.
Wow.
Yeah, so close. On average, 140 times in the summer. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to say, we can go 25 years. There's a couple of people who have battle with busy thoughts to help them stuff. Stuff. Every 6 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like any business. Our key asset is our people. Talking about one of our employees who's been with us 35 years. We have a young lady who works in finance. We celebrated her 48th year the other day. She tells me the only reason she's still there is she doesn't think she lived with her husband. But anyway, we're glad to have her. So she does a super job. So important service in terms of phobic crossings, important service as far as winds. We have weather restrictions. We have the wind escort vans. Somebody's restricted from crossing because they've got a surfboard in the trunk, a ladder in the trunk. We transition that from their truck into our elongated wind vans so that doesn't become a torpedo, so that they're not delayed from crossing. We keep those cycling until we get to sustained winds of 50 miles an hour, and then we have to cut off the elongated wind van service. So, yes.
Jersey, going Delaware, and we have checked on why, you have people going over the fish in trucks. We found out that the weight of the aluminum is what makes the difference. You use aluminum, so it's not weighted like the Delaware Memorial Bridge.
So 2016, 2017, 2018, 3 years in a row, we had 3 different tractor trailers that went over the side. Each one of them had their own, specific details. The overall statistic that really surprises as we evaluate wind and impact on vehicles is empty tractor trailers. The trailers themselves have gone from empty weights of 22 down to 12,005 as a result of those vehicles becoming much lighter to be able to carry more payment. Well, because they're lighter, they're empty, the greater scale impact, right? That's the reason the wind restrictions, as those loads get lighter, we have to amp up and continue to have a more restrictive wind restriction policy. Other facilities have called on us and said, hey, we see what you all are doing, and we're trying to figure out what to do, share all our data. We had RWDI, a company out of Kansas, a lot of wind engineering for larger buildings, that has done that wind engineering analysis. We shared it with them, and you're starting to see more and more facilities are doing the same because of trying to keep customers safe that otherwise are driving at safer speed. All of you probably drive past your cars. Even out there, we have our wind advisory, right? The reason we start ratcheting speeds down is the acceleration factor of G gravity. When folks are driving a commercial vehicle and they're going at a higher rate of speed and they make a sudden turn past somebody, and then you got winds compounded with that, your probability of having a major concern goes way up. So we've got to try to look out for those that otherwise don't think about those other things.
And the trailers haven't got larger. I mean, they got larger this way, but not height.
Yeah, we're still.
Years, they've said the height has always been cheap.
Yeah, and we have about 1 tractor trailer a week, unfortunately, that's turned away because they are unable to get their overall height down below 13.6. They get here, the laser alarms that we have across the lanes identify that they need to be manually measured. Most of the time, folks are able to take air out of suspension systems or even take air out of the tires to lower their overall height. But if that doesn't happen, they've got to take the unenviable 8-hour use. Won't have that concern in the new tunnels, but we still have the existing tunnels with. Did you have you were doing? Yes.
How high is the tunnel?
13.6 currently, the new tunnel is going to be 15.6. When the tunnels were built, State Department of Highways, even though they didn't fund any of the construction, stipulated they had to be at least 12.6. So we had 13 feet 6, thinking foot more than is currently required, it's more we ever need. I wish we had 15.6, because now, as I said, there are folks that are restricted. Other questions? All right, speaking of New Jersey, express lanes. Important for you to know, show of hands, just out of curiosity, how many of you have a transponder that looks like the one in the bottom right? Okay. Most of those transponders, if I had to guess, are probably only 5 years old. Okay? Yeah, so if that's the case, I would strongly recommend that when you have the opportunity, have time to come in, doesn't cost you anything, stop in and get a flex transponder. Why? When the construction is completed in 2028 in Hampton Roads and HRBT, there's going to be express lanes that run from Bowers Hill, which is where you decide in Chesapeake to take 58 or 664 continually, all the way around to Williamsburg, where if the congested lanes are slammed, right? Bad day, bad weather, a lot of traffic, holiday, whatever the case may be, congested lanes are slammed, you can get an express lane that you can pay a congestion managed charge to be able to go congestion free, right? Now that's going to be approximately 45 miles at its highest, $40. But if you get a flex tag and you have 2 occupants or more in your vehicle, you turn that flex, and I should have brought one, I apologize. You turn that flex mode on and you can travel in that express lane without paying. Okay? That's in all the Hampton Roads. Northern Virginia, you have to have 3 occupants. Okay?
Which is kind of.
Yeah, so if you're going to swap out, go ahead and get your flex, because that will benefit you if you find yourself in that position. Now, what people are doing in Northern Virginia, they get flex mode on and they got mannequins in the car, right? So the way that state police is trying to, is they're having infrared sensors to get an idea how much heat is coming off in the vehicle. So now what people are doing is they have, and I apologize, it's the term, slugs. There are slug lots where folks who need to get from Fredericksburg to DC for work, they actually will have to say, I have to pay a charge or get on stuff. They'll have somebody pick them up. They don't get charged, and in return, the driver gets to use the occupants to travel in the express lane. They've had those loans have been for 40 years. Yep. And I hate the term. I mean, that's what, as you can attest, that's what they're referred to as. Toll benchmark. Again, no subsidy. Where do we stand? The commission appointed by the governor, Governor Youngkin in this case, looks to see where do we stand toll rate per mile compared to other facilities in the region. We don't compare to New York, New Jersey, because comparison would be even more infinitesimal. But we just compare in the region, you can see we're fractions of the toll rates per mile. What that says is that we try to manage as a business, not as a government, keep rates low. The other thing that facilities do is they have some of them, such as the downtown Midtown tunnel. They have toll rate increases every year. Commission said we want to be respective of the fact that we need to keep up with escalation in cost, but only have a 10% toll rate schedule increase every 5 years. That correlates to 1.86% compounded annually, but it's only a change once every 5 years. So that started back in 2013.
There you go. You take Cape May, some of the ferries, Cape May or no ferries from here.
They have 3 or 4 operating ferries that used to operate here. Yes, sir. And I should have mentioned, this is what you would be paying if Lucius and Company didn't put a fixed crossing in. You can see that the rates would be approximately 3 to 4 times what you're currently paying, and you'd have the extended wait time. So again, Lucius, we thank you, sir. And the other thing is that we work with New Jersey, we work with Delaware on a biannual basis. They call and say, hey, what would our numbers be if we attempted to put in a fixed crossing? Now to complete a fixed crossing, across that crossing, which is 17 miles, comparatively similar, nowhere near as tumultuous as we are being in the Ocean Bay. And it's about 3.5 billion. And they say we just can't prioritize that amongst all our other funding initiatives.
But you're happy with all that. Gee, say. Being independent.
So what you're,
Pretty much-
yep, one of the things Virginia Senate after, so back
Pretty much
in,
back.
back in 2000 and, that would have been 2000, how are you, sir? 2003, we ended up in a situation where folks were attempting to get to the general fund. At the time, we had about 160
Yeah,
million.
great.
So
Leo line, Leo, what was?
good memory, Leo. And then after that, Senator Williams, House Bill 3202. So, so we used it as an opportunity to educate, right? And we got out and said, hey, here's what we do. Here's how we operate as a business. And arguably made us stronger. So another benchmark, cumulative budget growth over the last 10 years for ourselves, 36%. Commonwealth, which is considered to be fiscally conservatively managed, is 86%. So commission uses that as a good gauge as well. All right, parallel tunnel. Questions before we get into parallel tunnel?
I just have one historical question.
Yes, sir.
Can you remember before the second bridge was built, that there was a barge that got loose and slammed into the bridge and closed? Do I have that right?
No, you have that right. Unfortunately, we had 13 times in our history that we've been closed due to barge collisions. The worst closure we had was the Yancey in 70. We were closed for 42 days. Naval vessel, we had full remuneration from the Navy, $1.8 million. The barge collisions that are most recent that prompted closures were friendly fire. We had hired a company by the name of Skanska. Fact is, they used to own Bayshore to do scour remediation. You have shoreline erosion that we're also concerned with around the shore. For us, bay bottom erosion is key. We have to do hydrographs along the bay, and where we have excessive changes, we have to fill those pockets with rock to make sure we take that area that's playing a weakness, turn it into strength. They were placing multiple tons of the aggregate at the time. Barge broke free and hit B trestle, and we had to close. That day, we had to back traffic down B trestle, get them back to Island, northbound traffic, get them off the span.
Now, of course, with parallel bridge, generally you can keep traffic moving, but you have to close one lane down and go right.
Just depends. That event, we had to close both. But every incident is different. Excuse me, I didn't put any photos in here, but the other day when we had the fire, that was probably a month ago, give or take. We had a Purdue contractor tractor trailer that came through with 45,000 pounds of chicken. And we were closed for 5 hours, but kudos to the rescue and fire personnel that responded. Number one, thankfully, the fire wasn't in the tunnel. It was in the portal. Virginia Beach responded from the south side. They were able to get as close to where the tunnel turns into the boat section. Folks from Sheridan, Eastville, Cape Charles responded from the north side. They were able to get to the abutment where the trestle turns into the island. Together, they were able to put the fire out, but in the process, all of that smoke ends up in that north wind going down into the tunnel. So we had to back all the traffic that was flawed as a result of the accident back reverse through the tunnel. By the way, Katie, I don't want to prompt everybody to have to walk out of me. How much time do I have?
You're over already, so you got 5 more minutes.
I should ask that. So anyway, kudos to fire and rescue personnel. We certainly all take them for granted. Great job that they do. Thankfully, no injuries, no loss of life from that incident. All right, so this is sequencing of what has occurred on the islands. Tunnel boring machine, everybody's aware of that. Chessie named for Grace Bentley. Had a naming contest at the time. She was a middle schooler at Nandua. Now she's at Washington Lee. So this is the cutter head as it was placed to begin the boring. This is a photo of the island under construction. You see all of the diagnostics that we were able to get on a daily basis. This is the photo today. This is the ITT cover. This is the cover over top of the TBM. Biggest difference with the original construction, you had 2 million cubic yards of material that were removed. You had in total 37 tunnel sections for both tunnels that were placed. And then you had all of what had been screed, placed, double sealed, covered. So it's like a house being closed in at that time and then start to trim up. With the TBM, you have all the cover and then you begin the mining. Much safer, only has 600,000 cubic yards of material that's removed versus 2 million. Much more environmentally sensitive, okay? So you fast forward, all of this is at atmospheric pressure, everything in the chamber with the tunneling going on. This shows you your tunnel with the tunnel segments completed. Every 6.5 feet is 200,000 pounds of concrete, okay? 10 segments, 20,000 pounds a piece, 100-year durability, accelerated testing life. When you look at the back of the TBM is 306 feet long. This is when it was under full operation. The conveyor belt was built to go 2 miles and 4/10 because you had 1 mile and 2/10 of tunnel, and then you had to have the return belt to be able to take all the tailings from the front of the machine. These are all the utilities to help make this massive combine, if you will, for underwater tunneling proceed as it should. It shows you from looking back. These are the jacks that did 2 things. They put all of the tunnel segments in full compression, so you make sure that you have the water tightness per the spec of the contract that we entered into with the contractor, as well as they advanced the machine. Machine came in within 1/4 of an inch of tolerance of where it was to come in. Got a photo of that. Everybody's heard about the anchor here. Because I think I've been here since we've had the anchor. That's a picture of 6 foot tall employee, anchor 10 feet tall, 3,800 pounds. Quite a surprise, needless to say. Let's see. I thought I had these are the exterior wall systems of the portal. Every 9 feet, in this case, is 300 cubic yards of concrete. That's the equivalency of 30 ready-mix trucks that had to be placed for every 9 feet north-south. The robust structure of the boat section people take for granted. When you go to drive from the trestle to get down into the tunnel, you're driving through these sections that have a massive amount of pressure, head pressure coming from underneath the island, massive amount of head pressure coming from all sides, and it's built so robust to keep you dry from going from the trestle down into the tunnel. This is a picture of the waterproofing between the exterior wall sections and the interior wall sections. This is a photo of the interior wall sections being complete. As I mentioned, most people think, okay, tunnel boring is complete. When do I get to drive through it? Still got 3 years, okay? You got all the mechanical system integration that has to be placed in the tunnel. You got all the approach walls that need to be done. And you have the trim out of the system itself. Here's a picture of the cutter head after the completion of the boring. Team celebrating. So what's left to be done? So all of this is complete, okay? The exterior tunnel segments are in place. Now the wall sections have to be placed. They have to be 10 feet of roller compacted concrete placed in the road bed, okay? You have 2 12-foot travel lanes, 2 2-foot shoulders, jersey walls. You have tile. Most tunnels built in the last 30 years do not have tile. Okay, contractor said, you can't have tile. Hey, we're the owner. We're the ones paying for this. We're the ones having to maintain it. We don't want any of the other products that we've gone and evaluated have failed 10, 12, 14 years into these tunnels being operated. We want what we know is going to last. We want concrete. We want tile. So we have the opportunity to cleanse, to keep that tile brilliant for safety's sake of the lighting. How's everybody like the LED lighting in the tunnels? Everybody okay with it? I've had a couple complaints, folks saying it's too bright. Okay. But I guess it'd rather be too bright than too dark, just to be totally transparent. Uniqueness of the new tunnel. We're going to have a full plenum that's going to stretch from island to island, 1 mile and 2/10. for the purpose, if there is a fire, if there is smoke inhalation, if there is a hazardous material situation, you're gonna be able to exit out of your vehicle with a voice over system radiating in the tunnel and be able to get into this fire safe plenum and walk the full way in a safe corridor and be out harm's way with whatever's going on in the tube itself. So quite a unique feature. 15 feet, 6 inch of clearance, as I mentioned earlier. People don't think about the other things we transport beside vehicles, all of the broadband that we bring to the shore, all of the cell communications. We have companies we're working with now that have got typically subsea burials. They're bringing them across our cells. We're going to have extra space for all that conduit. Great for the shore because you're going to have the connection corridors that occur as relates to all the fiber optics that are using a redundant path to get to Northern Virginia through our cells. So all those things. Drainage, the drainage would be from west to east. We'll have about 11,500 gallon per minute pumping capacity in the new tube, all unique. All this information and more is on our website. Check it out. The last thing I'll leave you with, if Katie doesn't boot me out of here, is another project that's important for you to be aware of. We're going to have the deepest channel on the East Coast. Okay, this is your channel, paid for with Commonwealth of Virginia money and congressional money. We're going from 50 to 55 feet deep. We expect that's going to lead to 58-foot over dredge there at Thimble Shoal Tunnel. What we did is we went in and took an area that had adequate cover of sand, silts, and clays. One of our greatest risks is anchor drag. So we went in with a water injection dredging process. Outgoing tides, we dredged off 5 to 6 feet of the cover off the existing tunnel. We've replaced it with armoring stone. In the event there is a mechanical failure, anchors drug across that tunnel, we're well protected and wouldn't be closed for 18 to 24 months in the event that we have a situation. Now, if I just prompted somebody to need a phobic escort, don't forget, we've got that service for you as well, and we don't charge for that. So just being transparent. So that is a lot of information. What questions? Yes, sir.
Do you share my concern that people who aren't familiar with the entire tunnel will come through from the south with 2 lanes in the tunnel, and then as they go to the north tunnel, they go back to 2-way, single lanes. They will think they can go double lane.
All right, so Bill's question. So picture that we're complete, okay? And these dashed lines are your new tunnel and the existing. All right, the existing tunnel will be northbound. The new tunnel is going to be southbound. Folks coming northbound, say from the beach to Cape Charles, they end up coming through Thimble. They have 2 lanes in the same direction. Okay? Say it's normal operating condition. And then they get out on Beach Russell and they're on the phone, or it's late at night, early in the morning, whatever. They go to get in Chesty, okay, and say there's not a lot of traffic, and they think, what? Oh, I'm in the new tunnel. I got 2 lanes northbound, right? Nobody's going to be coming, and they may come up on a slow moving car and they go to pass. And guess what? Here comes the car opposed. All right. To answer this question, probably is going to create more phobia. Close your ears. We have people that don't pay attention to the signage we currently have. They get into either of our existing tunnels and they go to pass. All right. Unfortunately, the other day, this was just prior to the fire that we heard, we had a tractor trailer come into Thimble, okay, and ended up running up on slow moving traffic coming to 2 Island, past the slow moving traffic, a tractor trailer, and then decided to go northbound and southbound lane. Okay, so we have 40% Stein illiteracy. All right, and that doesn't mean we have a massive illiteracy problem of that magnitude, but we have folks that just don't pay attention. And I'll use myself as an example. I try to get too much done. I'm on the phone, I'm talking through conferences, whatnot. You know the story. We don't focus as we should, right? So use Jeff as an example. So what we're doing is we are going from as much as we can a letterful signage to letterless. So we're going in and we're going to be painting arrows, directional arrows in the lanes, in the tunnels now, not waiting for the new project to be complete. to minimize the concern we have now, not just what you're referring to in the future. So fact is, we just worked out and make sure we were compliant with the manual for uniform traffic control device for the federal roadways such as ourselves in the US, even though we don't get federal funding to make sure we're compliant. So other question? Thank you for that question. You'll see that in the next 3 months.
I hope I'm not alive in that.
I hope you are.
So to be.
Other question? All right, I'll stay afterwards if I haven't bored you already enough.
Great.
And you have-
We so appreciate that, and I don't know how you don't know the history of our club, that yes, for several years,
I'm always up for learning.
we met and had lunch on, not me, I wasn't alive. Although I held up very well. We will share our culture with you, because I think that's important to be.
That is.
Of your narrative as well.
And I'll add it. I'll add it as a slide.
Fantastic.
Thank you. If you'd send me that photo.
With that said, I know we are running late, so let's go ahead and rise and say the three things that we think Sandy. Number one. A feeling.
Have fun.
Have a good day. Thank you. Ring my bell.
Yes, no.
So people get respect from again.
What was the post?
Yeah. I got to get something to hand out.
You got it.
I'm sorry.
Bill.
Don't trip on the wire. Thank you.
Well, but it's on the
Thank you,
back,
sir.
it's on the back, it says, meeting on the Maryland.
Thank you, Bill.
Hey, Ray, I'll send you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
What's your fee? Okay, I'm telling you, you're telling me. What's your fee? Thank you.
Like it.
I've been a little behind of updating our website. Sorry.
Give one.
Yeah. Great. Good seeing you.
Yeah.
I really learned a lot.
Good. Nice meeting you.
For the
Yes, sir.
Chamber Fest to staff, help staff the
Yeah, I'm
table.
in. Yes.
Oh.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
I should have mentioned that. So the bottom of the tunnel is right at 97, 98. The top of the new tunnel is going to be -105. So the top of the new tunnel is approximately 7 feet lower than the bottom of the existing. Yep, hard to get.
What is the depth of the bank?
Right now, the deepest is going to be -55. Crazy. And then outside the channel at Thimble, it's approximately -35 to -40 feet. Chesapeake is 40 feet.
Related question. Why is the tunnel curved? Why isn't it straight line across?